obviously it's draft night. There was a trade reported yesterday, but I wanted to start with Ja because this is the first time someone from the organization spoken since that happened. And at your closing media session at the end of April after the playoffs, you used the word lockstep to describe the relationship between Ja and the franchise in terms of both equally recognizing how serious the issue was after what happened in Denver. Given that and the subsequent incident, how has that impacted the relationship between Ja and the team?
Yeah, I mean, we're certainly, disappointed with the behavior that transpired, as we got into the offseason. I think the discipline, from the NBA, I think it was appropriate. I think the thing to focus on, at this point, I think is, and there's ongoing discussion, now with the league, the union, and Ja's representatives is, what's Ja, going to commit to, going forward? What are the, what are the steps that he's prepared to take, for the NBA to grant the ability to rejoin the team after, serving the suspension? I think there's a lot of healthy dialogue there. I think everyone, I think we did acknowledge early on that this was going to be, ongoing, and Ja wasn't, just going to become the best version of himself, overnight. I think there's many, really serious steps he needs to continue to take. There's no, strain in the relationship, but we have, high, expectations of, the standard that Ja's going to have to hold himself to.
What was the communication with Ja like in the immediate aftermath of that last incident? What's the communication been with him since then? And can you clarify a little bit? The NBA's statement was that he was suspended from quote unquote public team activities. Can you clarify a little bit what that means in terms of his availability with practice and with facilities and stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, on the first piece, I'll just say we're in, communication with Ja. The league's in communication with Ja. I think everyone's been, very transparent about what needs to be done, from here, the steps that are going to have to be taken. As to, once Ja's, reintegrated into the team environment, he's at the very least going to be allowed to participate in individual work, conditioning, medical. I think there's further dialogue as to, other things that he potentially could be involved in. Obviously, he's not going to be playing for 25 games.
Going to the draft now, we see the trade from 25 down in the draft was just made official. What can you tell us there now at this point, and kind of just walk us through the draft picks? At 45, G.G. Jackson, 56, you go draft and stash. Why did you do that, and just your thoughts on those players?
Yeah, so the proposed trade, I don't think I'm allowed to go into detail on that yet. I will say, big picture, we had a pretty clear idea of what we were hoping to do, with this roster. We were certainly looking for a veteran presence, to add to the group. We're looking for more playmaking. We're looking for defense and defensive versatility. Someone who could come in and I think fit with a lot of, different lineup combinations, while Ja's out, and more importantly, in the playoffs, when we have to get there, first, obviously. But, the focus of our team building strategy has been how do we put ourselves in the best position to be effective in the context of playoff basketball.
Zach, I understand you can't speak about the proposed trade yet, but do you still foresee free agency and potential signing trades as other opportunities to add to this roster, or do you feel pretty much set once this proposed trade gets finalized?
Yeah, we like, obviously I can't comment on, the proposed trade, but I think we're very happy, kind of looking forward with where the balance of the roster is. I wouldn't expect anything, groundbreaking, necessarily from here of a major, kind of swing, further. We really like this. We like this group. We like the makeup of this group in the locker room. The direction that we're pushing the group to hold themselves to a standard of competing at the highest level, competing for championships. So, we have maybe a little bit one spot potentially to look at, but I wouldn't expect any kind of grand addition to the team.
Just kind of going for with that roster approach with a couple guys in particular, Steven Adams, Brandon Clark. Do you have any updates on just how they're progressing at this point?
Yeah, they're both doing really well. I think I said at the end of season media that Steven was, progressing well and on track for the beginning of the season. Even more confident, at this point. Steven is making, very healthy steps, and we continue to, fully expect that he'll be back at the beginning of the season. And Brandon, I think I talked, very, kind of glowingly about the progress that he's made. He continues to be, we haven't set a schedule, but if we had, he's ahead of it. I'm not going to, set any timeline on what's obviously a serious, longer term injury, but Brandon's doing really well. We continue to expect that, he very likely will be back for a good portion of the coming season.
Zach, could you just walk us through the thought process as you saw Gigi falling down the board down to the 45th pick?
Yeah, I mean, I think Gigi had, self-admittedly didn't have the best, freshman year. He's, youngest player in the draft. A lot of things that he has to, I think there's things, how he handled, his approach, to the game that he would very much take back, as well. But we see someone who, for his size, is incredibly skilled. We see someone who's a hard worker and who's committed to, doing the hard work to, I think he has to, I don't think he's happy, with how he handled this past year, and I think he's looking forward to trying to prove to everyone what he's capable of developing into as a basketball player. Would expect that he's going to be a two-way, would expect that he's going to spend a lot of time in South Haven. Gigi's going to have to, put in the work, to really achieve his potential. We're going to give him the structure to do that. But if Gigi is able to put it together, he's very positive, very hardworking, kid who has an opportunity to, be a very impactful player, at the NBA level. But he's got a lot of work ahead of him.
Zach, since knowing the 25-game suspension for Ja Morant coming down last week, how much of that played into what transpired tonight with what just the last 48 hours with the trade and drafting position?
Yeah, I mean, I would say we really are focused on how are we building a team that's going to be, the best that it can be in the context of playoff basketball. And, we've been pursuing, things to that effect well before, this offseason. So, certainly something where we want to give, the group and, the locker room every chance to, elevate their approach. But I don't think it's any different than the approach we otherwise would have taken.
Have you gotten the sense that there's been more action from Ja since this second incident?
I think he's taken some steps, but at this point, honestly, doesn't matter until he follows through on it. Couldn't care less, about words. Ja has to prove it. He's really going to have to. It's easy to say the right things. I think there have been instances in the past where Ja has shown recognition and remorse, with respect to, what was really a problematic pattern of behavior where there were, things that we would, challenge him on, that we would call out, and he, it was 2 steps forward, 1 step back, and there's no room for steps back, at this point. Ja needs to, he has the opportunity to come back from this. Ja has every opportunity, and everyone wants him to be successful, believes in him to be successful, is going to continue to give him the tools, the structure to be successful. It's on Ja.
Zach, I'm curious just in general, with how the season ended, with the various things that transpired, do you feel a different sense of, are you acting, you feel like, with a different sense of urgency than maybe previous off seasons in terms of how you're approaching it?
Fair question, but I honestly no. I think the types of players that we've pursued, including, the types of players we've pursued this offseason in deals that I'm not allowed to talk about, are the same type of targets we've honestly been pursuing for years. We've been selective, I think you could say, about the guys that we really want to, push in chips to invest in. But honestly, we would have made the same type of move, a year ago, 2 years ago. If there's someone that really, elevates the approach, of the group on the court, off the court, and is able to impact winning in the context of playoff basketball, those are the type of players we've been trying to load up on this whole time.
Zach, with the proposed trade, how important is the playoff experience, the veteran leadership that there's been a lot of talk around this team when it comes to that, and potentially adding that. What was the importance on your end?
I think it's, there's certainly a significant, benefit to that. Again, I can't go into, too much detail about, deals that are still pending at this point. But I think anytime you can add an individual to your group that's battle tested and is a, very proven winning impact, not just a contributor, but a real, driver of winning, I think you always, seek out players like that.
Last thing on Ja from me, but do you get the sense, one, that he's still happy to be here, and is it a difficult balance to be critical of a player that means so much to the organization, and also, make him, try to push him in the right direction here?
Yeah, Ja's thrilled to be in Memphis. There have been plenty of, instances where we've sat Ja down and gave him feedback that he wasn't thrilled about, but that doesn't mean, I think Ja wants to be held accountable. I think in the moment, at times, sometimes he's got to take a step back and learn from it, and I think he has made progress there. I don't want to lose, sight of that, but, at this point, he's going to have to show that he can sustain that. We're going to continue to pour into him. We're going to continue to, hold him to account for, everything that he's, doing day to day. It's on him to follow through, but he's going to have, every opportunity to do so.
You look at just from a team building perspective of where you guys are, Ja's second contract, is about to kick in. Jaren's, Desmond Bain potentially, getting a new deal sometime here soon. From a building perspective, you're getting close to being potentially in the luxury tax, in 2024, 2025. Is that something that you're factoring in, right now, in terms of decision making, from a long-term perspective, from a futuristic perspective of how you built this team right now, looking forward to potentially being a tax team, and we know with the restrictions in the new CBA?
Yeah, we're very willing to spend. I'm grateful. We're all grateful, that we have an owner in Robert Pera who cares about winning championships. That's literally all he's motivated by. We're able to, push in chips, as the goal has been, and we're excited to be, doing this offseason in a way that, when you look ahead to the season after this coming season, the payroll certainly, is continuing to go up, but the goal is to win championships, and that just comes with the territory.
Zach, we talk a lot about player development, but obviously the coaching staff development, and seeing with Darko, the kind of opportunity he got to elevate to head coaching. What was that like for this organization to experience that, and how much will you sort of help guide Taylor through reshaping potential staff going into next season?
Yeah, we're thrilled for Darko. Darko is an absolutely outstanding coach. He's put in the work. He deserves this opportunity in Toronto, and he's going to be a very successful head coach in the NBA. Taylor's continuing to fill out his staff. There's one additional hire, at this point for his staff that he's working through, and we're always supportive of Taylor as he builds out that staff in a way that continues to allow us to all push together. But
Zach, a year ago here, you had spoke about, last year's draft class with David and Jake, Zaire as well, now Gigi, shot value, that combo forward position, just a lot of, developmental opportunities there. You spoke highly of Jake at the end of your media session, just the development on those players, and now Gigi in there, where are they in terms of their development, a really important part of the roster moving forward?
Yeah, the young guys are putting in really good work this offseason. Jake, D-Rod, the whole group is, they've been in the gym, they're working hard. I'm excited for Summer League, really excited to see the steps forward that, we see it, every day these guys are putting in, voluntary work because they care, because they want to take a step forward, and very excited to see, what they're, it's going to have a lot of great open competition, with guys who, who we, believe in to play a real role.
Just to kind of follow up on that, you mentioned open competition with guys like Zaire and Roddy and Jake. Is there a little bit of a design possibly to have those guys competing for the opportunity to start on opening night with this suspension for Ja?
I would defer to Taylor on who's going to end up starting. Obviously, the transaction that I'm not allowed to talk about could also impact who's starting. Luke Kennard, I think is someone who could play a really meaningful. He's going to play a meaningful role, obviously during the season, but could perhaps take on even more, responsibility during the time, while Ja's out as well. So TBD, and obviously defer to Taylor on who's going to end up starting there.
Are you able to tell us who some of the main rostered guys that will participate in Summer League are?
Yeah, my expectation for Summer League is we will have D-Rod, Jake, Vince, Junior, Jacob Gilliard. I assume Gigi as well.
And can you tell us about this last draft pick?
Tarek Baverovic?
Yes.
Baverovic, yes. So Bosnian wing, 6'6". He plays for Fenerbahce. Can really shoot it. Has made, healthy, sustained progress. Good kid, hard worker, someone that, if he keeps making progress, has a real chance to make it at this level. So excited to, have his rights. I would expect him to continue, to play in Europe, at least going into this coming season. But we look forward to, having him be a part of our program and look forward to, his developmental trajectory. He's talented and can really shoot it with great size.
Zach, first, he asked me if you could pronounce his name one more time.
Tarek Baverovic.
Thank you. And then looking ahead to the starting line next year, I'm not sure how much you care about traditional positional values, but do you feel comfortable with Dez playing the majority of his minutes at the 3 as opposed to the 2?
I think, again, I'm wading into territory of a transaction that I'm not supposed to be talking about. I do think in connection with that transaction that I'm still not supposed to be talking about, there's a lot of positional versatility defensively that we could gain from that. So I am I'm optimistic about what that could bring to our group.
Two-part question. First, with Gigi Jackson, are you expecting to use him as a potential two-way on a two-way deal?
I would expect that Gigi will be on a two-way and not the 15-man roster.
So you'll still have that one spot potentially as of right now to dangle with. Do you foresee yourself, like holding that spot potentially for something else, or do you want to look for something in particular in free agency? How do you see that playing out?
Yeah, I mean, we have some thoughts in mind. We're excited to see, what opportunities could be out there in the weeks coming up here.
Zach, if my math's correct, I believe this is the 5th draft that you've led with the franchise, 4th or 5th. Just looking back, with the first year, getting Ja and Brandon, and this now being your 5th year, kind of what have you seen as, as far as maybe a difference in your approach, or is it pretty much the same? I know it's going to change as the roster develops, but just some insight on kind of how things have, evolved for you when it comes to your approach on draft night, this being your 5th one.
Yeah, I wouldn't assume anything has necessarily changed about our approach, coming out of this draft. I do think philosophically we're very much of the identify guys that we, are really passionate about and go find a way to get them in the draft. We felt like it was, our plan going into this draft was, to basically keep that roster spot open and explore opportunities going forward. And sitting at the 45th pick, that's kind of where, sometimes, two ways happen before 45, but that's like a realistic spot where you can, use that for a two-way, opportunity. We were considering two ways. We were considering stashes, things more. That was our plan going into this evening. You wouldn't really trade up from 45 to be, because if you go much higher than 45, the expectation isn't necessarily a two-way. It happens from time to time. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, guys.